Hey everybody, it is Wayne with Ugly Mug Marketing, and today I have a very special guest. I have a VIP guest with you today. I have our very own Maura with us. Hey Maura,
Hello, hello.
thank you so much for joining us. As awkward as it is, I'm in the conference room. Maura's two doors down in the original room. I guess it would be too complex for us to be in the same room at the same time. So. Um, Let's start off, Mar. What is Mara's story? Not necessarily work related, but like, who is Mara? What's her story?
Yeah. Um, so I am the second child out of four. And if you know anything about middle children, they're often forgotten. Um, so growing up, or not forgotten, just, you know, not the first and not the last. um, so growing up, I was the reserved child, the one who listened, you know, easygoing type personality, often the peacemaker between the rest of the siblings. Um, that led to a more quiet high school life. So by the time I got to college, I did 1 year close to my family, about 2 hours away. And after that year, I wanted to do something very, very different. So I actually came down to Louisiana after Katrina, a couple years after Katrina, to help rebuild. And that led me to Louisiana College. And the little rebel in me decided that that was the perfect opportunity to go somewhere very different, away from my siblings or what the quiet Mara was, to be my own person. So I came down to Louisiana about 9 years ago now, and had to be very independent, about 1,800 miles away from any family. So that whole experience has shaped me to who I am. So I've had to learn how to do everything for myself, and all of the leadership qualities that I learned growing up, I actually had to make happen with my own life. So that's me in a nutshell.
So you mentioned that your family's 1,800 miles away. So where is this
Yes.
magical place 1,800 miles away?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and which area, which part?
Yes, I grew up in a very, very small town called Waukwallapin, Pennsylvania, northeast-ish, about 2 hours away from Philadelphia.
And when you say very, very small, what's roughly the population?
That is a great question. I don't know what the current population is. The street I grew up on has about 6 houses on the whole street. So it was about 20 minutes away from any place to buy food, like grocery stores or anything like that.
Yep. So you end up here after Katrina doing some work down there helping rebuild. You end up
Yeah.
at Louisiana College. And then what did you do post college? You get out of college and what happens next?
Yeah, so I get out of college, entering in the real world where I have to continue on that independent self. I had to choose whether or not I was going to go home and find a job, or if I was going to stay here in Louisiana and find a job. And I have, over the 3 years in college, I really grew to love Louisiana. Not just my friends here, but like the culture. So I wanted to stay here. In order for that to happen, I had to have a job to do that. So right out of college, I was working at my church as a graphic designer. And I was also working at a couple other places at the same time. And I had probably like 6 months of having three jobs, and decided that that was not a good way to be living, going from one to the next to the next. So I made the decision to go to one of those jobs, and that was Chick-fil-A. I had started as a team member, and when I decided to make that my full-time job, I worked my way up. So I was eventually in a leadership position at the store. After Chick-fil-A, I worked there for about 2 years, and that's when I came to y'all.
Yeah. So Chick-fil-A is known for, first of all, they're known for their food, obviously. But they're also known for a culture, or having a culture where they teach and try to teach a lot about leadership. What are some of the things maybe that you picked up or took away from your experience there as it relates to either leadership or management?
Yeah, throughout those 2 years at Chick-fil-A, I learned so much about leadership, about myself and how I lead others and how I lead myself. I'm incredibly grateful for those 2 years for that. One of the main things that I learned was leadership. You have to work with the people that you're leading, not just say, this needs to be done or this needs to be done. You actually have to go through whatever is going on with them. A key example of that is any Black Friday in any mall, it's all hands on deck. And as a leader in a store, in a fast food restaurant on Black Friday, you have to make sure everything is going on how it's supposed to seamlessly. But then you also don't just want to be barking orders or telling people what to do the whole time. So I had to find the balance between jumping in and serving alongside my team members, but also stepping away and being able to see the big picture of what was going on in the store.
Yeah, those are great lessons. And you've carried those over here. If I remember correctly, when you originally started here, you were kind of in a bit of transition. You knew that you were wanting out of Chick-fil-A or out of kind of the the food industry, working lots of nights, weekends, et cetera. And you were in a bit of a transition. And from what I recall is we didn't necessarily have the position that you were wanting or hoping for. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah,
basically, you said, well, we don't have this position, but you can create that position for yourself.
Did you actually create that position?
Well, I think I created I'm
monster?
not sure. I created the need for more employees, or the need for separation of areas in the business.
Yeah. I vaguely remember in a lot of ways, in some ways we were taking a chance with you coming in. And the flip side of that is because you did have, if I'm not mistaken, another job offer at the time. And so from your end, you were taking a chance at something that may or may not work out.
Yeah. There were definitely a couple of sleepless nights trying to figure out what to do, but I'm very glad.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
Coming up on 3 years in about 2 weeks.
And what did you actually start doing? So when you first came here, what did you do? What was your role?
My role when I first came here was to make Hannah Broom's life easier. So whatever.
Official job title.
Official job title. Whatever she threw at me, take it, run with it, and have it so that she didn't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah. Who was here at the time when you started?
It was Hannah and Natasha, Jessica, Cole. I think that was it. And you, yeah.
Yep. Gotcha. And so you started out doing that, and then how did that transition, or what has it morphed into, and kind of give time frames? Because honestly, I don't remember how it's been such a natural, just, I'm here every single day. So the transitions, I don't really see, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. That's a great question. I don't know exactly if I could break down the time frames, but basically, so I started out with doing whatever was given to me, okay, so you can do that and you've helped me with this. Why don't you try taking over this whole area of the website department? But that was broken down into different sections. That probably was November, December, 4 months is when I started. 4 months after is when I started actually working more solely with the website department.
Yeah. So at the time, just for context for those watching at the time, we only did really websites. I mean, we did a few little marketing things on the side, but the bulk of the business was just websites. So
yeah, so when Hannah would give me something to do, that would free up her time to do other things. And I think that's where we're able to add in more of the marketing and social media side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So how has your role morphed and transitioned? So like you started in just kind of working on tasks that were assigned, and what does it look like today?
Whew. Well, I still do work on some tasks that are that need to get done, but a lot of it has turned into bigger picture items. So how do we continue to grow the website department in order to help so many other small businesses around, either in Louisiana or outside of Louisiana? But it's also, so that's a lot of like future work type things. But it is also working with others on our team to be able to make sure that we have that same unique experience for all of our clients. So yes, we have a whole lot more clients than we did when I started. But that doesn't mean they should get a different experience. Like they should still have that personal experience with us. So figuring out how to balance the future work with the urgent stuff that comes up with growing the website team to be able to provide that experience.
Yeah, which is a transition or a challenge that so many organizations face is, how do you maintain that level of service as you continue to grow? And we're fortunate to have you in charge of that. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
What would a typical day look like for you now? What's a typical day?
I don't know if there is such a thing as a typical day, but I like to get here bright and early. I'm usually the first one here for a couple of reasons. One is I have clients all over the United States. So some of them are in the Eastern time zone, which is an hour in front of us. So I like to be here for when they actually start work. Another reason is no one else is in the office. So my focus time and the amount of things I can get done before others come in the office is very great. So I'm usually here around 7 o'clock. From 7 to probably about 9, it's working on making sure all the different projects, everything's being updated correctly, reaching out to any clients who had certain questions that I didn't see the day before after I left or something like that. Usually around 10 is when meetings will start. So meetings with those clients, making sure we still have those personal connections. And then I go to lunch, more meetings, and then working with our other team members, making sure that they are on track with the projects that they're working on.
Over the course of the time that you've been here, how many websites do you think you've actually launched? I know that's a tough question. Just what's your, I'm sure you could go calculate it on one of your Excel sheets, but.
And part of me wanted to actually look that up because I figured you were going to ask that.
What's your guesstimate?
Worked on or launched?
Either or, whichever one you can guess better.
I'd probably say we've launched about somewhere between 50 and 60 in the 3 years. That could be way off. It could be 40 to 60, somewhere in there. And then add on another 20.
Yeah, so roughly 15 to 20 a year launched.
Roughly,
Give
or take.
I was just curious. What would you say is one of the most challenging and or frustrating parts of what you do?
Well, I'm not a people person. So even though I had to become independent for myself, that doesn't mean I enjoy it. So one of the hardest things for me is to have those personal relationships with clients, team members, because I'm the type of person who would rather just focus on what I'm doing the whole day. So purposefully making those connections and relationships with people.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that. Maura and I are very similar in that manner. We just like to stay focused on the work at hand, and the chit chat, at least for me, can always go by the wayside. But
I was gonna say we could probably be in the same room and not say a word to each other the whole day.
Yeah, no, you're right. What would you say over your past 3 years, looking back, would you say there have been any skills that you think you've really developed or learned over the last 3 years?
I don't know if you would call it a skill, but not being comfortable. So going outside of my comfort zone. Yes, I have been pushed to do that. Wasn't my original choice, but being able to take what's given to me in those circumstances and actually grow from it or learn from it. So like talking to people, for example, I think I've gotten better at that over the past 3 years for sure. But the way I handle the thoughts around speaking in public or meeting somebody new, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I can think of a few of those occasions, like having to get up on stage on crutches in front of a few hundred people and talk.
Yeah, that was the first one that came to mind.
Yeah, we ever so gently and caringly pushed you out on the stage.
Yes.
And you did great. You did great. When you think of Ugly Mug marketing and you think of the people kind of like in the community, so whether that's, downtown community or Sinlaw community, what do you think maybe some of the misconceptions or the things that people believe to be true about Ugly Mug that maybe aren't true? What do you think some of those may be?
The first thing that came to mind is the price tag. And this is a touchy subject for lots of people whenever you talk about cost. But I think most people say that we're expensive and they just write us off. So yes, we are on the more expensive side of things, but there's a whole lot more to that. The value behind a custom built website versus a template website is incredible. And I could talk about that for a long time, so I won't. But I think that's the first thing that people think of when they hear Ugly Mug marketing is expensive when it comes to websites.
What is one thing about you that you think most people would be surprised to learn or know?
Now I have to think of like things that other people don't know about me. I didn't have my own cell phone until I was 18, which is that's a huge shock for people growing up now because they get them at like 8 to 10.
Yeah, I agree with your statement, but I don't think I had my first cell phone until I was 21. I'm obviously older, 2021, something like that. So yeah, I can relate. But,
that's just a random fact.
No, it makes sense. What would you say as you look forward in terms of web specifically? What do you think the future might hold in terms of like technology and websites? Any ideas on what you think the future websites may be?
Well, based off of this past year with COVID, a whole lot more companies need to have websites. So it's definitely going to keep growing. The mobile side of websites is going to become a whole lot more fluid. So people aren't going to be focusing on desktop versions or even tablet versions of websites in the future. It's going to be strictly mobile. Those are the first things that come to mind.
Those are good. One or two final little questions for you. So I know one of your goals that you were working on, I think this quarter, was you're reading a book. I believe, called The Mentor Leader by
Yes,
Tony Dungy. Is that right?
that's correct.
And I know you shared this past week, I think it was just maybe the week before in our team meeting, kind of your key takeaway or key takeaways from the book. Would you mind sharing that with everyone?
Yeah. So now that you ask me, I'm trying to remember what I said on Monday.
Just make up another good takeaway from the book.
Well, this book is from Tony Dungy. He's a coach in the NFL, or was a coach in the NFL. So when I saw this book, I was super excited because I love football. So combining football with business to me was very interesting, and how to actually make that happen. One of the things that he stressed over and over again was, when you're leading someone, you have to have a personal relationship with them in order to walk through not just whatever you're going through with them. So if it's a business relationship and you're trying to be a mentor to them in business, it's not solely business that you should be connected with them on. It should be a whole lot more deeper than that, so that you can understand who this person is and all aspects of their life in order to grow that one area. So very, very focused on personal relationships and helping others lead themselves, basically.
Yeah, that's a good lesson. For me, that's a challenging lesson because, I would much rather not get involved in the personal, the relationships. I'm more matter of fact, cut and dry.
That's probably why it stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What last words would you leave for people watching this? What's the last thing that you would want to say to everyone watching this?
Do you want this to be business related or just like anything?
Whatever you'd like.
Go
the stage
outside.
Is yours.
It's beautiful weather. Take advantage of this.
Yeah, for those who don't know and who haven't been by our office when the weather's nice outside, it's not uncommon for Maura to be sitting outside in a chair in the middle of the sidewalk working.
Yeah. So today I wasn't in the middle of the sidewalk. Today I was next to Tampon Ground because the sun was on that side of the street.
It's a little, the wind's a little brisk today, but it's still beautiful.
Yeah. But it's beautiful weather. Go outside, enjoy it. It helps.
It does. Well, Maura, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to let everyone get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.